The ship came from the stars on a Tuesday morning. Captain Yuna stood at the observation window of the Korean orbital station and watched it approach. The alien vessel was beautiful in a strange way. It looked like a silver leaf floating through space, thin and delicate, catching the light of the sun as it moved closer. "They are requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant June from his station. His voice was calm, but Yuna could see his hands shaking slightly over the controls. "Grant it," she said. For 50 years, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. The Galactic Coalition had been watching Earth for decades, studying from a distance, trying to understand the strange creatures that lived on the blue planet. And today, they had finally decided to say hello. Yuna took a deep breath and straightened her uniform. She was not tall, she was not physically impressive, but she had been chosen to represent Earth for a reason. She was calm under pressure. She listened before she spoke, and she never let her emotions show on her face. Engineer Hana joined her at the window. "What do you think they want?" "I guess we will find out," Yuna replied. The docking process took 30 minutes. The alien ship connected to the station's port with a soft hiss of air. When the doors finally opened, Yuna got her first look at the beings from another world. They were tall, very tall. The leader stood over 2 meters with long, thin limbs that looked like they might break if you touched them too hard. His skin was pale blue, almost translucent, and Yuna could see dark veins running beneath the surface. His eyes were large and round, the color of gold coins. He wore a strange suit that hummed with energy. Yuna noticed that all the aliens wore similar suits. They moved carefully, as if every step required thought and planning. "I am Ambassador Torvak of the Velani species," the tall one said. His voice came through a small device on his chest that translated his words into Korean. "We represent the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace." Yuna bowed slightly. "I am Captain Yuna of the Korean Space Agency. Welcome to Earth's orbital station. We are honored by your visit." Torvak studied her with those golden eyes. There was something in his expression that Yuna could not quite read. It looked almost like concern, or perhaps pity. "Your species is remarkable," Torvak said. "We have watched you for many years. We did not believe you would survive." Yuna kept her face neutral. "Survive?" "Your planet," Torvak explained. He gestured with one long, thin arm. "Earth is what we call a heavy world. The gravity is nearly 3 times stronger than our homeworld. The pressure, the density, the force that pulls everything down. Our scientists believed that intelligent life could not evolve under such conditions." June and Hana exchanged looks behind Yuna. She could feel their confusion and slight annoyance. "We manage," Yuna said simply. Torvak nodded slowly. "Yes, you manage. That is what makes you so fascinating. You are small, fragile creatures, and yet you have built cities, you have created art, you have even reached the stars." He paused. "We are impressed." He said the word fragile like it was a fact, like he was describing the color of the sky or the temperature of water. It was not an insult. It was simply what he believed to be true. Yuna did not correct him. The Velani delegation spent the next several hours touring the station. They brought gifts with them, small devices that could translate any language, star charts showing the locations of hundreds of inhabited worlds, medical tools that could heal wounds in seconds. In return, they asked for very little. "We want Earth to join the coalition," Torvak explained during their formal meeting, "as a protected species." Yuna sat across from him at the conference table. June stood by the door and Hana monitored the recording equipment. "Protected species," Yuna repeated. "Yes, the coalition has many member worlds. Some are strong, some are advanced, and some, like yours, need protection." Torvak leaned forward slightly. "We do not want to see your kind disappear. You are unique. Your art, your music, your stories. These things have value. We wish to preserve them." "And what would protection mean?" Yuna asked. We would station guardian species on your planet, strong species that can help you survive. We would provide technology to make your lives easier. In return, you would share your culture with us, your ideas, your creativity. June shifted his weight by the door. Yuna could feel his tension without looking at him. You believe we cannot protect ourselves, she said. Torvak tilted his head. Captain, with respect, your planet is trying to kill you every moment of every day. The gravity alone puts tremendous stress on your bodies. You live shorter lives than almost any species in the coalition. Your bones break. Your muscles tear. You are constantly fighting just to stay alive. He spoke with genuine concern. That was the strange thing. He was not being cruel or dismissive. He truly believed he was offering help to creatures that desperately needed it. We have studied your biology, Torvak continued. Your bodies are dense, heavy. You require enormous amounts of food just to maintain your weight. Your hearts work harder than any heart should have to work. It is a miracle that you function at all. Yuna listened to all of this without expression. We are grateful for your concern, she said finally, but I think you may not fully understand what life on Earth has made us. Torvak smiled. It was a gentle smile, the kind an adult might give to a child who did not understand their own limitations. Captain, I have studied your world for 30 years. I understand perfectly. That night, after the Velani had returned to their ship to rest, Yuna sat alone in her quarters. June knocked on her door and entered without waiting for permission. They think we are weak, he said. They think we are fragile, Yuna corrected. There is a difference. Is there? Yuna looked out her window at the stars. Fragile things break under pressure, she said. We did not break, we adapted, we grew stronger. She turned to face him. But they do not know that yet. Should we tell them? Yuna was quiet for a long moment. No, she said finally. Let them believe what they believe. For now we watch, we learn, we understand what we are dealing with. June nodded slowly, and then we show them who we really are. Far below them, Earth turned slowly in the darkness of space. A heavy world, a crushing world, a world that had tried to break humanity for millions of years. It had failed. The Coalition's central station was the largest structure Commander T had ever seen. It floated in the darkness between 3 star systems, a massive ring of metal and glass that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Ships came and went constantly, carrying beings from 100 different worlds. The lights never dimmed. The activity never stopped. And everywhere the human delegation went, the Velani followed. Please allow me to carry that for you, said the attendant, reaching for T's small bag. T shook his head. I can manage. But Commander, it must be so heavy for you. The strain on your arms, your shoulders. Please let me help. The bag weighed less than 5 kilograms. T had carried heavier things up mountains back on Earth, but he smiled politely and let the attendant take it. Lieutenant Sora walked beside him, her jaw tight with frustration. This is ridiculous, she muttered in Korean, low enough that the translator might not catch it. Patience, T replied in the same language. They had been on the station for 3 days now. In that time, they had not been allowed to do anything for themselves. Their chairs had been specially padded with soft material. Their food had been cut into tiny pieces and pre-processed for easy digestion. When they walked anywhere, Velani attendants hovered nearby, ready to catch them if they stumbled. It was like being treated as a sick patient in a hospital, or perhaps like a fragile museum piece that might shatter at any moment. The human delegation consisted of 6 people. Commander T was the leader, a former military officer with 30 years of experience. Lieutenant Sora was his second in command, a pilot and tactical expert. Then there were the specialists, Dr. Myra, who studied alien biology, Engineer Hana, who analyzed their technology, Sergeant Hyun, who provided security, and Scientist June, who documented everything they encountered. All of them were struggling with the way they were being treated. "They scanned my bones again this morning," Myra said during their private meeting that evening. "The Villani scientist, Alex, kept saying she was looking for stress fractures. She seemed convinced that my skeleton was about to collapse." "What did you tell her?" T asked. "I told her that I ran 10 kilometers every morning back on Earth. She looked at me like I had confessed to self-harm." Hyun laughed, a short, bitter sound. "They tried to stop me from doing push-ups in my room, said the exercise would damage my joints." "The gravity here is so light," Sora added. "I feel like I am floating. How do they think we survived a world 3 times heavier than this?" T held up his hand for silence. "They do not understand," he said, "and that is not entirely their fault. They have never seen a world like ours. They have never met beings like us." "Then we should show them," Hyun said. "Let me demonstrate what a human can really do." "Not yet," T's voice was firm. "We are guests here. We are observers. We do not know enough about the coalition to take risks." June cleared his throat. "Commander, the council meeting is tomorrow. They are going to formally discuss Earth's status in the coalition." "I know. The proposal is to classify us as a protected species. They want to assign guardian races to our planet. They are talking about us like we are endangered animals." T nodded slowly. "I know that too. And we are just going to accept it." T looked at his team, at their frustrated faces and clenched fists. These were some of the best people Earth had to offer. Soldiers, scientists, explorers. They had trained their whole lives for this mission, and now they were being treated like children who needed help crossing the street. "For now, yes," T said. "We accept it, we smile, we nod. We learn everything we can about the coalition and its member species, and when the time is right, we will change their minds." The council meeting was held in a vast chamber at the center of the station. Representatives from dozens of species sat in curved rows that rose up toward a distant ceiling. The humans were given seats at the very front, close to the floor, where medical staff could reach them quickly if needed. First speaker Nexel, a being that looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard, opened the session with formal words of welcome. "The species known as humans have traveled far to join us today," Nexel said. "They come from a world called Earth, a heavy planet in a small system at the edge of explored space. Despite the harsh conditions of their homeworld, they have achieved remarkable things. We gather to discuss how the coalition can best support and protect them." T listened to the translation in his earpiece. He kept his face calm and neutral. A Villani representative spoke next. "Our studies show that humans live very short lives, even by coalition standards. Their average lifespan is less than 100 years. Their bodies are constantly under stress from their planet's gravity. They suffer from diseases that most species eliminated centuries ago." Another representative from a species called the Korath added their thoughts. "The humans are also unusually aggressive. They have a long history of fighting among themselves. This may be a survival adaptation, but it makes them unpredictable. We recommend close monitoring." Sora's hands were trembling. T put a gentle hand on her arm, a silent warning to stay calm. "Despite these challenges," the Villani representative continued, "the humans have shown remarkable creativity. Their art and music are unlike anything in the coalition. Their ability to imagine and dream is extraordinary. We believe they have much to contribute if properly supported." The discussion went on for hours. The representatives debated the best way to help humanity. They talked about technology transfers, medical assistance, and educational programs. They discussed which guardian species would be best suited to protect Earth. Not once did they ask the humans what they wanted. Finally, T raised his hand. The chamber went quiet. "May I speak?" he asked. First speaker Nexel gestured for him to proceed. T stood up slowly. He felt the eyes of 100 species watching him. He felt the weight of his responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. "I want to thank the Coalition for its concern," he began. "We understand that you are trying to help us. We are grateful for your kindness." The representatives nodded and murmured their approval. "However," T continued, "I have a request. Before any decisions are made about Earth's status, I would like my delegation to visit your homeworld, the Vellani homeworld. We wish to see how your people live, to understand the conditions that shaped you." Torvak, who sat among the Vellani representatives, looked surprised. "Commander, our world would feel very strange to you. The gravity is much lighter than you are used to. You might float. You might injure yourselves." "We will be careful," T said. The council discussed the request among themselves. Finally, Nexel spoke. "The request is unusual, but not unreasonable. We will arrange a visit to Velora Prime. Perhaps it will help the humans understand why our protection is necessary." T bowed his head in thanks. "I am certain it will be educational." He returned to his seat. Sara leaned close to him. "What are you planning?" she whispered. T did not answer, but for the first time since they had arrived at the station, he was smiling. The shuttle descended through clouds that looked like pink cotton. Sergeant Hyun pressed his face against the window, watching the alien world grow larger below them. Velora Prime was beautiful. The sky was painted in shades of purple and orange. The forests were silver, the leaves reflecting light like mirrors. Great cities rose from the landscape, their towers so thin and tall that they looked like needles pointing at the sky. "The gravity will feel very different," Torvak warned them from the front of the shuttle. "Please move slowly when we land. Do not make any sudden movements." "We understand," Commander T replied. The shuttle touched down in a wide plaza at the center of the capital city. The doors opened, and warm air rushed in, carrying strange smells that were both sweet and metallic. Hyun was the first to step out. The moment his foot touched the ground, he felt it. Or rather, he felt the absence of it. The gravity was so light that he almost bounced with each step. His body, trained for Earth's crushing pull, suddenly felt like it weighed nothing at all. "This is incredible," he breathed. Pilot Myra stepped out behind him and immediately jumped. She rose nearly a meter into the air before floating gently back down. She laughed with pure joy, like a child playing in snow for the first time. "Be careful," a Vellani attendant shouted, rushing toward her. "You might hurt yourself." Myra landed softly and grinned. "I am fine. This is amazing." The Vellani watched the humans with wide, worried eyes. They had expected the heavy worlders to struggle, to stumble, to fall. Instead, the humans were adapting within minutes. They bounced experimentally on their toes. They stretched their arms toward the strange sky. They moved with a freedom they had never known before. Torvak approached T with obvious concern. "Commander, perhaps you should rest. The change in gravity can affect the body in unexpected ways." "I feel fine," T said. He was not lying. For the first time in his life, his back did not ache. His knees did not protest each step. The constant weight that had pressed down on him since birth was gone. "Please let us show you to your quarters. You can observe the city from there." "Actually," T said, "I would like to walk, see the city up close, meet your people." Torvak hesitated. "Commander, I am not sure that is wise." "I insist." The tour of the capital city took most of the day. Everywhere they went, Vellani stopped and stared at the human visitors. Children pointed at them with long, thin fingers. Adults whispered to each other in their flowing language. The humans were a curiosity, strange beings from a heavy world, somehow walking among them despite their supposed fragility. Dr. Myra took samples of local plants, her scientific mind racing with questions. Engineer Hana examined the buildings, amazed by how thin the support structures were. Scientist June filled notebook after notebook with observations. And Sergeant Hyun tested his limits. When no one was watching, he picked up a decorative stone from a garden. It was the size of his head, and it weighed almost nothing in his hands. On Earth, it would have been a struggle to lift. Here, he could toss it in the air and catch it like a ball. He was beginning to understand something important about this world. The Vellani built everything light because they had to. Their bodies could not handle heavy materials. Their machines, their buildings, their tools, everything was designed for beings who had never known true weight. Late in the afternoon, the delegation was walking through a large construction site. A new building was going up, its skeleton made of pale metal beams that reached toward the sky. Vellani workers moved carefully along the scaffolding, their movements slow and precise. "This will be a cultural center," Torvek explained, "a place where artists from many worlds can gather and share their work." Sora nodded politely. "It is very impressive." Then they heard the sound. It started as a groan, a deep metallic cry that echoed across the construction site. Everyone looked up. One of the main support platforms was collapsing, its connections failing one by one. Beams twisted, metal shrieked. And directly below the falling structure was a group of Vellani children. They were on a school tour their teacher had explained earlier. Young students learning about construction and engineering. They stood frozen in place, their golden eyes fixed on the destruction above them, too shocked to move. The adults around them screamed. Vellani workers tried to run toward them, but their long legs carried them too slowly. The platform was falling. A massive support beam, at least 10 meters long, broke free and plummeted toward the ground. Toward the children. Sergeant Hyan did not think, he ran. His legs, evolved to fight Earth's gravity, pushed against the light ground with explosive force. Each stride covered 4 or 5 meters. He moved faster than any Vellani had ever seen a being move. The distance that would have taken them 30 seconds to cross, he covered in 5. He reached the children just as the beam came down. Hyan planted his feet, raised his arms, and caught the falling metal. The impact drove him to his knees. The beam was heavy, even in this weak gravity. It was designed to support buildings, to hold up entire floors. It should have crushed him. It should have killed him. Instead, Hyan held it. His muscles screamed with effort. Veins stood out on his neck and arms. His teeth were clenched so tight that he thought they might crack, but he held. "Move," he roared at the children. "Get out of here now." A Vellani teacher finally broke free of her shock. She rushed forward and grabbed the children, pulling them away from the danger zone. They stumbled and ran, their thin legs carrying them to safety. When the last child was clear, Hyan did something impossible. He stood up. With the beam still on his shoulders, he straightened his legs and rose to his full height. Then, with a shout that echoed across the silent plaza, he threw the beam aside. It crashed to the ground 20 meters away, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. Hyan stood in the center of the plaza, breathing hard, his body shaking with adrenaline. Around him, hundreds of Vellani stared in absolute silence. Torvek's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Commander T walked slowly to Hyan's side. "Are you injured?" Hyan shook his head. "I am fine, Commander." T looked at the fallen beam, then at the Vellani watching them. "I think we have some explaining to do." The news spread faster than light itself. Within hours, every station in the coalition had heard the story. A human, one of the fragile beings from the heavy world, had caught a falling construction beam with his bare hands. He had saved Vellani children. He had done something that no Vellani could ever dream of doing. Videos of the incident were shared millions of times. Scientists analyzed them frame by frame, trying to understand what they were seeing. Military strategists watched with calculating eyes. The word fragile was never used to describe humans again. That night, Hyan sat alone in his quarters on Velora Prime. His arms and shoulders ached. He would have bruises tomorrow, but he felt good. He felt like he had finally shown the galaxy who humans really were. There was a knock at his door. He opened it to find a small Velani child standing there, one of the students he had saved. The child looked up at him with those large golden eyes. Slowly, carefully, she reached up and pressed her small hand against his chest. "Thank you," she said in her own language. Hyun did not need a translator to understand. He knelt down to her level, making himself smaller, less frightening. "You are welcome," he said softly. The child smiled. Then she turned and ran back to her parents, who were waiting at the end of the hallway. Her father looked at Hyun for a long moment. Then he bowed, low and deep, the way Velani bowed only to those they respected. Hyun bowed back. Everything had changed. Scientist Alex had studied humans for 15 years. She had analyzed their blood samples, measured their bone density, recorded their muscle movements. She had built computer models of their bodies and run simulations of their biology. She had written 47 papers about the species from the heavy world. And she had been completely, utterly wrong about everything. Alex sat in her laboratory on the Coalition's central station, staring at the video footage from Velora Prime. She had watched it 300 times now. Each time, she noticed something new, something terrifying. The human called Hyun had moved faster than any Velani athlete. His muscles had produced force that should have torn his body apart. He had caught a structural beam that would have required machinery to lift on their homeworld. And then he had thrown it away like it was nothing. Alex pulled up her old research files and began to read them with new eyes. The calcium density she had measured in human bones. She had thought it was a disease, a weakness, something that made their skeletons brittle and prone to breaking. Now she understood. It was armor. Human bones were dense because they had to be. They supported bodies that lived under crushing gravity every second of every day. The muscle mass she had recorded. She had thought it was inefficiency, wasted energy, a sign of poor evolutionary design. Now she understood. It was power. Human muscles were layered deep and thick because they were constantly fighting against their planet's pull. The scars she had seen on the human delegates. She had thought they were evidence of fragility, proof that humans were easily damaged. Now she understood. They were proof of survival. Humans got hurt, yes, but they healed. They kept going. They refused to stop. "What are you?" Alex whispered to the image of Hyun on her screen. The door to her laboratory opened. Torvak entered, looking older and more tired than she had ever seen him. "The council wants a full report," he said. "They need to understand what we are dealing with." Alex nodded slowly. "I have been reviewing my research. Everything I thought I knew was wrong." "Tell me." She turned to face him. "Their planet has gravity nearly 3 times stronger than ours. That means everything they do, every movement, every breath, requires force that we cannot imagine. Walking upstairs for them is like climbing a mountain for us. Running is like sprinting through water." Torvak sat down heavily in a chair. "Continue." "Their hearts pump blood at pressures that would rupture our vessels. Their lungs pull in air with force that would collapse our chests. Their very existence is a constant battle against physics itself. And they survive." Alex laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They do more than survive. They thrive. They run for hours without stopping. They carry loads that would crush us. They heal from injuries that would kill us. They live on a planet that is actively trying to destroy them every moment of every day, and they call it home." Torvak was silent for a long moment. "The council called an emergency session. They have summoned the human delegation." "To do what?" "I do not know, but I think they are afraid." The council chamber was fuller than Commander T had ever seen it. Representatives from species he had not met before filled the curved rows of seats. The air was thick with tension. First Speaker Nexel opened the session, with none of the usual formalities. "Commander T of Earth," Nexel said, You and your people have deceived us. T stood at the center of the chamber, his team behind him. He kept his voice calm and steady. How have we deceived you? You let us believe you were fragile, weak, in need of protection. Nexel's feathers bristled with anger. You said nothing while we offered you guardian species and medical assistance. We did not lie, T replied. We simply did not correct your assumptions. A rumble of voices filled the chamber. Some sounded angry, others sounded frightened. The incident on Velora Prime has forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about your species, Nexel continued. One of your soldiers caught a construction beam with his bare hands. He moved faster than our fastest athletes. He displayed strength that our machines would struggle to match. T nodded. Sergeant Hyun did what any human would have done in that situation. He protected those who could not protect themselves. Any human, a Korath representative called out. Are you saying all of your people possess such abilities? To varying degrees, yes. Some are stronger than others, some are faster, but all of us are products of our world. Earth shaped us into what we are. Alex stepped forward from the Velani delegation. May I speak, first speaker? Nexel gestured for her to proceed. I have spent 15 years studying humanity, Alex said. I believed I understood them. I was wrong. She held up a data pad. I would like to share what I have learned. For the next hour, Alex presented her revised findings. She showed diagrams of human bone structure, explaining how the dense calcium made them nearly unbreakable by coalition standards. She displayed muscle fiber analysis, demonstrating how human muscles were designed to produce far more force than any other known species. She talked about human endurance, how they could run for hours without stopping, how their bodies cooled themselves through sweating, a process most species found disgusting but incredibly efficient, how they could survive extreme temperatures from freezing cold to burning heat. She talked about human healing, how their bodies could repair broken bones, regrow skin, fight off infections, how they carried immune systems that had battled millions of diseases over thousands of years. And she talked about human history, how they had survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions, how they had hunted animals 10 times their size, how they had crossed oceans and conquered mountains and spread across their entire deadly world. When she finished, the chamber was silent. You call yourselves fragile, Nexel said finally, but you are not fragile at all. T stepped forward. We never called ourselves fragile, you did. Then what would you call yourselves? T thought about it for a moment. Survivors, adapters, persistent. Dangerous, the Korath representative muttered. You are dangerous. We can be, T admitted. When we need to be, when those we care about are threatened, when we have no other choice. He paused, but that is not why we came here. Then why did you come? T looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Some were afraid, some were angry, some were simply confused. We came because we are curious, he said. We came because we wanted to meet other beings, to learn from them, to share what we know. We came because we believe that the universe is big enough for all of us. He took a deep breath. We did not come to be protected, we came to offer protection. On Earth, the strong help the weak, the healthy care for the sick, the able support those who struggle. That is who we are. You expect us to believe that beings of such power want nothing in return? Nexel asked. We want what everyone wants, peace, understanding, connection. T smiled slightly, and perhaps a little respect. The council debated for 3 more hours. In the end, they reached a decision. Earth was reclassified. It was no longer a protected world. It was now officially listed as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous environments in known space, and humans were reclassified as well. Apex persistence predators, Alex read from the new documentation. Species capable of extreme endurance, rapid adaptation, and overwhelming physical force. Recommended approach, mutual cooperation and respect. T accepted the new classification with a simple bow. "Welcome to the Coalition," Nexel said, "as equals." 6 months had passed since the reclassification of Earth. Captain Una stood on the observation deck of the Coalition's central station, watching a human cargo ship dock at the main port. It was the third one this week. Earth was sending supplies, equipment, and people to help rebuild a colony that had been devastated by an earthquake. The Vellani workers at the port had stopped staring at humans a long time ago. They had grown used to seeing the heavy worlders carry loads that would break Vellani backs. They had learned to step aside when humans walked past, not out of fear, but out of practicality. Humans moved faster and could not always stop in time. A young Vellani dock worker approached Una with a data pad. "Ambassador, the relief supplies have been catalogued. Where should we send them first?" Una looked at the list. Medical equipment, construction materials, food supplies, water purification systems. Everything a struggling colony needed to survive. "Send the medical equipment to the main hospital," she said. "The construction materials can go to the housing district, and the food should be distributed through the community centers." The worker nodded and hurried off to coordinate the delivery. Una watched him go with a small smile. 6 months ago, that same worker would have insisted on carrying her bag for her. Now he treated her like any other senior official. He respected her, but he did not pity her. That was progress. A familiar voice came from behind her. "You have become quite comfortable in your new role." Una turned to find Torvek approaching. The Vellani ambassador looked different now. There was less concern in his golden eyes, less pity, more genuine respect. "It has been an adjustment," Una admitted, "for all of us." Torvek nodded. "The coalition has changed since your people arrived. Some changes are small, others are more significant." "What kind of changes?" "There is talk of sending human advisors to other heavy worlds, planets that we always assumed were uninhabitable. Your scientists believe that life might exist there after all." Una raised an eyebrow. "That would be interesting." "There is also talk of changing our emergency response protocols. Humans can reach disaster zones faster than any other species. They can work in conditions that would kill the rest of us." Torvak paused. "Some representatives are even suggesting that humans lead certain military operations." "That makes some species nervous." "It does," Torvak agreed. "The Korath in particular are concerned. They have always been the strongest species in the coalition. Now they are not sure where they stand." Una understood. For thousands of years, the coalition had operated on a simple hierarchy. The strong species protected the weak ones. The advanced species guided the primitive ones. Everyone knew their place. Then the humans arrived and turned everything upside down. "We are not trying to replace anyone," Una said. "We just want to help." "I know," Torvek said. "I have watched your people. I have seen how they work. They do not seek power for its own sake. They seek problems to solve." He tilted his head thoughtfully. "It is a strange way to live." "It is who we are." On the other side of the station, Engineer Hana was leading a team of human workers through a construction site. They were building a new wing for the Coalition's central hospital, a project that would have taken local workers years to complete. The humans were finishing it in months. Hana wiped sweat from her forehead and looked up at the rising structure. It was beautiful work if she said so herself. Strong foundations, solid supports, walls that could withstand almost anything. The kind of building that would last for centuries. A Vellani architect approached her with obvious hesitation. "Ms. Hana, I have a concern about the load-bearing walls." "What is the problem?" "They seem very thick, much thicker than standard coalition designs. I am worried about the cost of materials." Hana smiled patiently. "The walls are thick because they need to be. This hospital will treat patients from many worlds, including heavy worlds. The equipment they bring will be heavy. The doctors who work here will be heavy. We need walls that can support that weight. The architect considered this. I did not think of that. That is why we are here, to help you think of things you might have missed. Across the galaxy, Lieutenant June was training security officers on a small colony world. The colony had been having problems with local predators, large creatures that attacked their farms and threatened their children. The colonists were from a species called the Murath, beings even more delicate than the Vellani. They had never faced a physical threat they could not run away from. The predators had taught them that running was not always enough. The key is not strength, June told his students. The key is preparation. You study the enemy, you learn their patterns, you set traps, you work together. A young Murath raised her hand. But what if the traps fail? What if the predator attacks anyway? Then you fight, June said simply. You use whatever you have. Sticks, rocks, your own bodies. You make the predator understand that attacking you is not worth the cost. But we could die. Yes, you could, June looked at her steadily. On Earth, our ancestors faced predators much larger and more dangerous than the ones troubling you. They fought anyway, not because they were certain they would win, but because they refused to give up. The student was quiet for a moment, then she nodded slowly. I think I understand. Good, now let me show you how to set a proper perimeter. On Velora Prime, children still told the story of the human who caught the falling sky. Sergeant Hyun had become something of a legend there. Paintings of his rescue were displayed in schools. Stories about him were told at bedtime. Some children even pretended to be him during their games, puffing out their chests and roaring as they lifted imaginary beams. Hyun found it embarrassing, but he never complained. He visited Velora Prime regularly now, helping with disaster preparedness training. The Vellani were learning to build safer structures, to plan for emergencies, to work together when things went wrong. They were still fragile by human standards, but they were no longer helpless. On one such visit, the child he had saved found him again. She was older now, taller, her golden eyes bright with intelligence. I want to be like you when I grow up, she told him. Hyun knelt down to her level. You cannot be like me. You are Vellani. Your body is different from mine. I know, she said, but I can be brave like you. I can help others like you do. Hyun smiled. That is exactly right. Being a hero is not about how strong you are. It is about choosing to help even when you are afraid. The girl nodded seriously. I will remember. Back on the Coalition station, Ambassador Torvak found Yuna watching a human cargo team unload supplies with their bare hands. They moved with casual efficiency, lifting crates that would require machines for other species. We were fools, Torvak admitted quietly. Yuna shrugged. You were careful. You saw beings from a world that should have killed them, and you assumed they were weak because they survived. It was a logical mistake. And now, Yuna looked at the stars visible through the observation window. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning in its orbit, pulling at everything on its surface with relentless force. Somewhere out there, 8 billion humans were going about their daily lives, fighting gravity with every step, every breath, every heartbeat. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had crossed oceans and split atoms. They had reached for the stars and found them within their grasp. And now they had found something even better. They had found others to share the journey with. Now we are partners, Yuna said. We help those who need help. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We explore the unknown and face the dangerous. That is a very human way of looking at things. Perhaps, Yuna smiled, but I think it is also a very good way. Far below the station, a new ship was launching toward a distant corner of the galaxy. It carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens, setting out to explore a region of space that no one had ever visited before. The humans took the most dangerous positions. They volunteered for the hardest jobs. They smiled when others would have complained and laughed when others would have given up. Because that was who they were. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand.